guys, welcome to this session. Here we're going to quickly take a look at switch structures. It's just a review session for you guys. So let's go right ahead. So looking at the code here, we have an integer variable called choice, and then immediately after that we're displaying a menu and waiting for the user's input choice. So we display a menu. It's just for exercise, or actually illustration. So it's option 1 is blue, then yellow for 2, green for 3, red for 4, and purple for 5. And then we're asking and waiting for the user to enter a choice. So you can see that the user can type in 5 values in this case, and we need to go and test to see which value was entered by the user to give a corresponding reaction from the program, or to follow a corresponding decision path for that user input. So what we would like to do is, for this menu, when the user selects option 1, we would just like the program then to print out blue in all capital letters back to the screen as the reaction from the program. So that is just to illustrate the switch case. Now the switch case structure is a selection structure, just like if else and else if is. However, it's a multi testing case structure. It's a multi-testing structure, so it can test for multiple values. You can think back to the if just acts on if the condition is true. So it's a single acting or single pathway. Then your if else is a if it's true, else is false, so it gives you 2 pathways. Okay, and it gives you an alternative. If you nest ifs inside the else, so you have an if, else if, else if, else if, else if, yes, then you have multiple pathways once again. However, if you have an exact input from the user, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, then a switch is really ideally situated or ideally used for that kind of thing. It fits real well. So how does the switch work? Well, you write switch, and then in brackets you just give the name of a variable such as choice. We just have choice in any case, and then it will go and test that variable to see if it has the value or values next to the cases. So inside your switch you write case, and then you provide a value or possible value for that variable. So 1 is a possible value for choice. We're using choice as the user input. That would mean if the user wants the blue option, they will type in 1. So case 1, so 1 is stored inside choice. Then what do I want to do? I want to print blue, all capitals, to the screen, and break. Okay, this is an important part here, this break statement. So the break statement will immediately stop the switch from further continuing. So after line 25, it will jump out and down to line 36, meaning the program is basically done. So why that is done is if you do not have the break. So if it was like this, after executing printf blue, your switch structure will continue down and execute the printf yellow. So there's no default barrier of the code belonging to one case and the code belonging to the next case or other cases. There is no such barrier. So it will just simply go, if case 1 is true, we say if it's triggered, then this code will be executed, and whatever else is below it. Until, of course, it gets to the break, then the break will force the switch out. But if there were no breaks, it will, if it enters here, if case 1 is true, it will print blue, yellow, green, red, purple, invalid input, and then it's at the end. Excuse me, not invalid input, that's the default, and I'll explain that in a minute. So the break is just there to create a barrier between one case and the next, so that your program execution does not go from one case's code to the next. Alright, so that's why we would use a break in the switch. So it almost goes without saying, this is a review session in any case. These are the 5 possible values that we expect in choice, and for each one of them we have an individual pathway, we have individual code that will be executed. Now we get to that default keyword that I mentioned before. What about default? Default is just there for the case or the possibility where none of the cases triggered. So none of the cases were true. So what if the user types in 6, for example? It's not what we expect, but the user is not prohibited from that. The user can type something in like that, although you ideally don't want the user to do that. But so it happens, then what? Then default executes. So default is for all other possibilities. So whatever possibility has not been listed next to a case, that will be thrown basically into the default. So, and in our case, because we have a menu here, options 1 through 5, if the user should type in 6, default will execute and print invalid input. So any choice besides these 5, we will see invalid input on the screen. And then we at the end of the switch, there's the beginning of the body and there's the end of the body. Alright, let's quickly run this code and see what we can see. I'm just going to bold it to make sure. Alright, so there's our menu. Blue, yellow, green, red, purple. Let's choose 1 and it prints out blue. Let's choose 4, prints out red. Let's choose 6, prints out invalid input. So there you go. That in a nutshell is the switch. Then I have a little exercise for you guys. But before we do the exercise, I want to quickly show you a runtime example of this code. Okay, so there we have the runtime on the screen. Your code should say, if I just move it down there, you ask the user to type in a hexadecimal digit, 0 to F. In fact, I don't want it to be capital F, I want it to be lowercase f. And let me just bring this back up. So you can see there's the string printed to the screen, enter hexadecimal 0 to F. And then we must display, after the user has given this input, we must display the equivalent decimal value. So we ask the user for the hexadecimal value, 0 to F. Then we capture it as a character into the digit. And you can see digit is a character variable created here. So now, basically that means that we have 16. We have 16 possible valid values. That's 0 to 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. And 0 to 9 hexadecimal is still 0 to 9 decimal. A, however, represents 10, B 11, and all the way through to F is 15. Okay, so basically we want to create a little converter here. So now on the next line I say display the equivalent decimal value, convert by testing the input with a switch only. So basically one solution to this is once you have this input from the user, this digit, go and test it. There's 15 possibilities and then act based on each possible value. So if the user types in, for example, F, then it must test and find that it's F, and then F in the switch must then make sure that 15 is printed to the screen. So I'm going to hit enter and you can see it prints decimal colon 15. So this here is provided by that switch that we implemented. Thank you guys. That's it for this one. Have a good one.